What is up, YouTube? What is up, Canada? Matt McKeever here. And today, it's Tuesday, so we're going to be talking about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, blockchain, NFTs, something of that nature, because that's what we talk about every Tuesday. But today, specifically, we're going to be talking about NFTs, and I'm just going to try and give you guys a bit of a crash course. Now, I'm obviously no expert in this, but I have been kind of digging into it. It's of interest to me. Now, the first thing I guess I should start this off with is none of this makes sense, and yet at the same time, this makes complete sense to me. So this is one of those instances where I'm really capable of double think when it comes to NFTs. So if you want to say that this makes completely no sense and this is a complete waste of money, I agree with you. And if you want to view this as an opportunity to potentially invest, make money, or potentially just buy digital art, I also agree with you on that. What I do find interesting, though, is just all the different things going on around NFTs. So what I thought I'd do is just share with you some of the resources, some of the information that I've stumbled upon over the past couple of weeks of learning about this stuff. And yeah, I think it's really interesting. Probably the first time you might have heard about NFTs, if you don't really play in the space, if it's not of particular interest for you, is maybe when Beeple did his auction, right? And the $69 million. So we'll come to that in a second. But first, let's just make sure that we're on the same page when it comes to actually talking about NFTs. So I've got it up here, just the basic Wikipedia for you guys, but a NFT is a non-fungible token. It's a unit of data or a digital ledger called a blockchain, where each NFT can represent a unique digital item, and thus they are not interchangeable. NFTs can represent digital files such as art, audio, videos, items in video games, and other forms of creative work. So essentially think of it as anything that's kind of creative, right? So that's what I'm going to use as kind of a catch-all. Anything sort of artistic, essentially anything that's not interchangeable. Now, again, there's a lot of variations on NFTs, and I think that what's going to be really interesting for, from my perspective at least, is over the next few years, all the different financial instruments and products and collectibles and different spin-offs and random things that will be layered on top of this. Understand that at this point in time, the vast majority of NFTs that either I'm going to talk about or you guys are likely going to discover, they're likely going to be related to Bitcoin or to Ethereum, right? But we'll jump back to one of the original NFTs, Rare Peps, in a second, and we'll talk about that and the Bitcoin connection there. But first, let's just kind of do a quick roundup. You know, even the New Yorker was getting in on the NFT action, talking about all the craziness. And there was actually this ArtNet article that came out today, which was just perfect timing, and summarized 10 of the most expensive NFT artworks. Now, again, I think even some of this is subjective because, for example, they didn't have Jack Dorsey's tweet. It's technically an NFT. I think that would qualify it as a piece of art. So that should also likely be included in all this. But I think I've got his tweet up here somewhere as well in a second. So just thought this would be cool. So here is a NFT of Beeple that's just literally a carefree baby goat chilling in what appears to be a psychedelic garden. But anyways, let's get into the actual prices here. So this sold in 2021, 550,000. Furious, the everlasting beautiful. So I'll try and get into a little bit more practical in a second, guys, but I just thought it'd be interesting to establish that there's real dollars being exchanged here. You know, here's a Batman, and again, 550,000. We've got this internet meme, which is 561,000, right? We've got another Beeple piece of art here for 777,777.77. Kind of trippy. And you've got the goat down there. So this was the complete MF collection. Again, I'm just kind of showcasing this just to maybe even give you guys a little bit of perspective. So also this little video from Pack that was finite, I guess, sold for 809,000. And understand a lot of these transactions, I guess I don't know about these bigger transactions. These bigger transactions might literally be in dollars, but usually they're going to be measured in Ethereum. Then we've got Steve Aoki that had this, and again, interesting 888s all across the board. But you'll notice, a lot of these prices are being set in March 2021, right? So we're definitely in kind of peak NFT fever, it seems like right now. That all being said, that doesn't mean that this won't stay around, or a version of this won't stay around. It just means there's going to be wild swings at this current moment in time. $1 million for this rose. This was the first like NFT that really caught on my radar, because when this came out back in February, so obviously this is supposed to be a representation of Donald Trump, right? It's the crossroads of 2020. You've got the Twitter bird that comes down and leaves a clown emoji. So definitely when I saw that hit, I don't know. I was like, this is a relatively famous internet artist or digital media artist that's posting something that's very applicable to the time that people are very passionate and energetic about. So for me, while I don't think I would have dropped 6.6 million on it, I was like, it doesn't seem as absurd as it might on the surface, I guess. So like, anyways, just wanted to comment on that. I'm not saying that made sense to anyone but me, but in my brain, when this happened, I was like, interesting. I wasn't like, pick my jaw off the floor. Because again, this just felt historical timing, again, regardless of your politics. But then this was the big one that I think, brought both Beeple as well as NFTs and this whole concept into the mainstream, where you're going to see a lot of news articles for the rest of 2021, right? It's probably pretty safe to say people are going to be talking about NFTs. And so this was the first 5,000 days. So again, essentially, we've got like 21,000 pixels by 21,000 pixels, and there's 5,000 images there. And then just a few other notable pieces of NFT art. We don't have time to actually get through all of them, but a few of these will come back. So I'm a huge Rick and Morty fan, so this one just stood out to me that, Justin Rowland offered over a dozen artworks in his first NFT art collection in January, led by Simpsons homage, the Smintons. At 290,000, testing the boundaries of crypto art, what makes something valuable, the art, the artist, the process, the state of mind when it was created, the intention of the piece. He wrote on Twitter, feeling really good about this collection. And then there was a second drop on March 17th. He pulled in 69,000 to a better artist than me ahead of the sale, gifting it to Beeple as an homage to the $69 million sale. So I guess, I don't know. Again, this is interesting to me, right? Like Rick and Morty, I think, is a very fascinating television show. I'm a huge fanboy of it. The Simpsons is also a cultural touchstone. So to see these two interconnect in pop culture like this is interesting. Now, again, when I dropped $290,000 for it, I don't think so. But like, as weird as this sounds, like for me, like this or the Mona Lisa, I've got more of a cultural connection to this personally than the Mona Lisa. I know that those that have probably taken art history degrees have more of a connection to the Mona Lisa than to this. But, again, it's a new era. And so I think it's fascinating. I'm not claiming to have good taste either. So be aware of that. But I'd love to get your thoughts, your opinions. Well, let's kind of keep rolling on this Beeple stuff. So Beeple did this auction, right? $69 million. And then immediately, like the B20, this token that essentially kind of represents a stake in this occurred. So, without getting too deep into it, here's a quick little chart of the Beeple token itself. So again, you can see a lot more activity and volume here in early March, and then not too much else going on. And I just wanted to highlight here, like, it's really blurry right now in regards to like, what is a financial instrument? What is a security? What is a collectible? What is a piece of art? Like these lines are blurring in ways that have literally never existed before. If you guys go way back on my YouTube channel, I've done some videos on drips and I made some jokes about my share certificates, but some of the art on those share certificates are actually quite beautiful. And I joked about like, I could see eventually people wanting that as a collectible, some of these individual share ownerships. And so again, this is where these lines are so blurry and there's going to be so many different security cases and precedent set. And there's going to be, it's going to be fascinating. But Brad Mills, who's a local Londoner who also has a podcast called Magical Internet Money. He was one of the first guys, my understanding, to really push cryptocurrency here in London, Ontario. He tweeted this out earlier last week, I guess. The person, Medikovan, who bought Beeple's Christie's piece for $69 million, is the issuer of an illegal, that's what he's saying here, ICO coin called B20, which is a derivative of Beeple's NFT. He owns 51% of the B20 supply, $44 million. He claims wokeness, but he's just trying to put the pump on the coin. Now, again, I'm not going to get into specifics here, but it is fascinating. And definitely what we need to be aware of is whether this is the case with this exact coin or not, or this token. There's going to be a lot of versions of this are going to come out. There's been different people that have created like lotteries around NFTs. Again, if you don't realize it, regulators really hate it when we go create securities or lotteries, or essentially when we do anything enterprising that they don't get a stake in. And there's going to be a lot of this occurring in the space. So again, NFTs are like the Wild West, in my opinion. And it's just fascinating to be a part and get a glimpse into the Wild West nature of it. And so again, there's going to be boom and bust cycles like crazy here. But just want to touch upon, this was the first ever tweet. So Jack Dorsey sold that 2.9 or sold his first tweet for 2.9 million. He tweeted out, just setting up my Twitter with no vowels there, back on March 21st, 2006. And so he was able to create an NFT from that and sold it for 2.9 million. And now one of the funny things about this is a lot of Bitcoin maximalists have pointed out that he essentially then went and put this into Bitcoin. So if you subscribe to a lot of Bitcoin maximalists dogma or just listen to them, you'll hear that they essentially view everything as a way to get Bitcoin, and that being kind of the ultimate goal. So it is just interesting to see an NFT created, but then those proceeds immediately get ported over. Then I thought I'd just Google, or I'd search, I guess, on Twitter, the word NFT. It's just fascinating the number of projects that are coming out. So like there's just millions and millions of projects coming out. It feels like every single day, everyone's doing their first NFT project. Everyone's launching their first or buying their first NFT coin or token or whatever. So it's a fascinating time to be in this space. Now, again, definitely I can understand those that feel like this is in bubble territory. And one of the first real, I guess, criticisms of NFTs you're going to have people say is like, hey man, that's cool that you showed us this, piece of art for $69 million or whatever it was, but why can't I just screenshot it? Isn't that pretty much just the same thing? And yes and no, right? Like essentially since digital cameras have existed, since the internet existed, that's been true for every piece of art. So I would argue outside of maybe something that's tactile that you literally experience physically by touching, feeling, all that, everything else that's a visual stimulation, yeah, that's been kind of true. You could get probably a higher def resolution photo of famous pieces of art that are in like the Louvre or, like the Mona Lisa or things like that. You could probably have a more faithful production that you could view at closer at home than you could in that actual museum, right? Because there's often restrictions. We got to be so many feet away, So it could actually be argued we could recreate a better experience in our home, and yet we still place a lot of value on the actual original item, right? And reproductions clearly don't carry the same sort of weight. So at this point in time, it really comes down to the value is in the eye of the beholder, right? Is it in the 48 Laws of Power? There's the story about these art collectors decide that they're going to get Henry Ford to, buy their fancy art collection. And so they put together this beautiful magazine or booklet with all the different photos of the pieces of the art that they want to sell to. They give him this beautiful glossy magazine. He checks it out. He's like, wow, this is such a wonderful gift. Really appreciate it. And there's a disconnect there. And they're like, oh, we don't think you realize, like, we want you to buy the art. And he's like, gentlemen, why would I want to buy this art when I've got this beautiful book? This is more than enough. And so I think it really comes down to us as individuals. But when we're thinking about why would someone maybe want to do this stuff, another factor is it actually could be supporting an artist you really care about. So there are platforms like Rarible. So this is where if you want to go create your own digital art, you might choose to do it on a platform like this where you can mint it. And so just like me, like Justin Rowland, Rick and Morty, that's really cool. So like I might want to support him. Or again, back in the day, I used to really be into comics and graphic novels. there were certain local artists and comics and intellectual properties that I'd want to support and promote. And I'd be willing to go into those. The same way that I used to support certain Kickstarters for like board games or things of that nature. I can definitely see the desire to want to help crowdfund or become essentially a patron of some of these artists. So there's an aspect to that. But obviously right now there's a ton of speculation involved with it as well. But the one thing that really makes this interesting to me is this idea of having a digital living room. So things like OpenSea, where you can literally have your OpenSea account and it can act as your digital living room. So I'll get into CryptoPunks here in a sec, but just play along with me here for a sec. If we go to top punk owners, I can actually check these people out and see their OpenSea account. So for example, you guys know I'm a big Austrian economics guy. So when I see Yvonne Mises, I just naturally want to click it. And I can literally check out this guy's digital living room and see everything he owns. So this to me is fascinating because I can literally peer into what this guy's invested in, right? I can see the 36 CryptoPunks he owns. I can see essentially what he acquired them at. I see a few people in the comments talking about like NBA Top Shots and things of that nature. Yeah, so certainly the NFT sports arena is going to be wild as well. There's a lot of money. Same with like when we look at collectible cards, we're already popping off even before NFTs start to gain traction. But I suspect that we'll see that become even more and more popular. And again, it's fascinating, this idea that I can kind of know that this guy's legit, or he's at least legit in the CryptoPunk world because he owns these 36 punks and it's confirmed through his OpenSea account. And, it looks like he's even got like a virtual space and stuff. So again, I will probably create a lot of content around this stuff over the coming months and years. I plan to actually probably have some spin-off channels and stuff like this. I really see a lot of interesting potential here long term. But what I think the time is right now isn't to blindly jump into NFTs, isn't to just like jump in and bet the farm on something random. The time is start watching, start learning, start paying attention. And then maybe with time, you may want to actually get into it. So what I did want to talk to you guys about here was CryptoPunks, which they're one of the original NFTs. So they're not the original NFT, but they're one of the original NFTs. And this essentially was a project where they created 10,000 unique collectible characters, all that have individual characteristics. And I won't spend a ton of time here, but it's just fascinating once you get into the details and the level of understanding you can have around these things. So I can literally see how many are aliens, how many are apes, how many are female, how many are male. None of them identify as anything other than female, male, zombie, ape, or alien. But again, I can see all the different attributes, the number, what the average sale is, what the cheapest one for sale is right now. And again, we can just go on some crazy, rabbit holes on this. So I can look into this individual CryptoPunk 340, and I can see he's a male. I can see he's got 4 different unique characteristics, and these are this. And then I can see the bidding history of everything that's gone on. So I can see when he was claimed, when different people have bid on him, when it's been offered for sale, and what's occurred. As well, I can see who those bids came from. So for example, Pranksy is a well-known account in the space of NFTs, and particularly CryptoPunks. I can see all the punks this account currently owns. I can see what punks it's got for sale, what punks it's got bids on. I can see how many punks it's bought. So I can see that they bought about $5 million USD of CryptoPunks. I can scroll down further. I can see that they've sold about $9.5 million in CryptoPunks. So they've netted, at least $4 million here plus their inventory. And it looks like they've got at least another $1 million in change in inventory. What's also interesting is you can pick up on patterns. Hey, he's collecting a lot of police hats. Is he trying to corner the market on police hats? And this all leads us into just more and more data around this, right? So you've got different websites like Non-Fungible here that actually tracks a lot of the data going on in these CryptoPunk markets. So I can see all the recent transactions, the different wallets that were involved with it, and I can see the volume of transactions going on in the market. Exactly. I can know exactly how many CryptoPunks changed, what dollar amounts. It's fascinating, the level of transparency here. As well, if we jump back to this, I can keep going into the different accounts and realize what accounts have a big chunk. This account here has 490. That's almost 5% of the CryptoPunk market, right? If all of a sudden they were to get together with 2 or 3 of these other top owners, they could easily accumulate 20% or more of the market. That has significant consequences. Again, it's fascinating, all this. And I'm not saying that CryptoPunks are the right thing. I'm not saying they're the wrong thing. I'm not saying Beeple or B20 is the right thing or wrong thing. I just think it's a really interesting time. And then the communities that grow up around this. So this is the Discord for CryptoPunks. And literally, there's an entire community that's developed around this, all with opinions, its own terminology, its own language, right? Like social norms. It's a fascinating environment. And every major project will have something of this nature as well. So I want to jump back before we wrap up today, though, and talk about one of the original NFTs, which were these rare Pepes. So just a FYI, it turns out there's a bunch of different even Twitter accounts on the rare Pepes. And if you want to check out further, there's different directories. This is rarepepedirectory.com. But essentially, this was a NFT that was done on the Bitcoin blockchain. And I'm sure someone will correct me, but to the best of my knowledge, this was actually one of those first NFT projects. So again, we covered a lot of information today. I just really wanted to have a general discussion with you guys about this. I think it's a fascinating environment. I don't think that you should sell all your real estate and go all in on NFTs right away. I think there's a good version where you should probably never get involved in NFTs. But if it's something that's of interest, I think it's worth learning more about, right? Like for me, from the perspective of like, should I go buy a rare comic book if that's going to personally satisfy me, or a rare NFT? Yeah, they're the same thing. In fact, if anything, the NFT seems easier to store for, and it's easier to confirm the exact quality of the NFT I got versus a comic book, which again, I can take it to a third party and get it graded and sealed, but I can't really appreciate it the same way that I feel like I potentially could appreciate that NFT. Obviously, NFTs also have applications for things like real estate, land transfer titles, right? Or when we're trying to transfer those land titles. Again, there's a lot of interesting applications, and I'm sure that we'll see all sorts of different things evolve over time, but I'm definitely going to be learning more about this. This is one of those like random projects for me. So this is an area where we've heard about the 80-20 principle. I think of like 80% of the time you're focused on your main shit. 20% of the time you can go dabble. And now I slice and dice the 80-20 principle a lot of different ways. So don't stress. I understand that it's usually you do 20% of the work to get 8% of the results. But this is one of those things where you're going to go spend just a fraction of your time experimenting, right? Gary Vee's talked about this from a content perspective. Focus on one social media channel and go 80% on it, and then dabble with a couple others, and that's where you spend 20% of your time. For me, real estate, social media, that's my 80%. But where I'm going to dabble and spend 20% of my time is in things like Bitcoin, is in things in projects like NFTs, CryptoPunks, and other items on the horizon. So love to get your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know if this is anything you guys are playing with. Homer has 4 tits. Thank you for the observation there, guys. And let us know, what projects are you involved in? Are you looking at minting your own NFTs? What platforms are you doing it on? What Discords are you part of? What Twitter accounts are you following? I really do want to start learning a lot more about this, and I love it when you guys share me your perspectives and opinions on it. So let me know, and looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video.